All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little video for Niner fans. The Niners know who's coming to Levi's next Sunday, and it's Dan Campbell and his Detroit Lions who get the win over the Tampa Bay Bucks today in Detroit in the divisional round. And that's right, Deebo Samuel, if he can suit up, him and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson are probably going to lock horns. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson wants to kill Deebo Samuel, and if Deebo plays, he's going to get some Chauncey Gardner-Johnson next week for sure. And, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. There in Corte Madera and Emeryville, open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or until they run out. And this video also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code Krug, and they will match you up to your first $100. All right, let's talk about this one today. Lions scored first on a Michael Badgley 23-yard field goal to cap an 8-play, 37-yard drive in just under 3 minutes in the first quarter, and Detroit jumped out to a 3-0 lead. But Tampa would come back, an 8-play, 50-yard drive in 4 minutes, and they tied the game at 3 when Chase McLaughlin hit a 43-yarder, and it stayed that way into the second quarter. And then Jared Goff engineered a 14-play drive and found Josh Reynolds for a 9-yard pitch and catch to make it 10-3 Lions. And then Baker Mayfield would respond, though, at the end of the first half. A couple of big pass plays to Mike Evans moved it down the field, and then a 2-yard pitch and catch from Baker to the tight end Cade Otton to cap a 7-play, 92-yard drive in just a minute and 13 seconds. The Bucs scored quickly, and you had a 10-10 game at halftime. In fact, at halftime, Tampa had a yardage edge of 233 to 134. They had a pass yardage edge of 164 to 95, and they had a rushing edge of 69 to 39 in total yards. But Detroit was +1 in turnovers. Goff in the first half, 14 to 22 for 99 yards and a touchdown. Detroit couldn't run the ball in the first half, 3.3 yards per carry. But C.J. Gardner had an interception. He's a big play guy. He had a big pick in the first half of this game. Mayfield had a tremendous first half. He was 13 of 18, 181 yards, and take away the pick, he was great. He had a touchdown. Rachaad White was running for 7.8 yards per carry, and that's what Tampa did in the first half. It was Mike Evans and a really good run game. Tampa averaged 6.9 a carry, 6.9 yards per tote. And then Evans had 4 catches for 97 yards. Otton had the touchdown. They were led on defense in that first half by KJ Britt, who had 10 tackles and a tackle for a loss. Kalijah Cansey had a sack. Chase McLaughlin made one of his 2 field goals. And you had a 10-10 game coming out of the dressing room, and you're thinking, you know what? This is anybody's ball game. But Detroit took over. Third quarter, they went for it on 4th and goal from the 1 to cap a 10-play drive, and they punched Craig Reynolds in. And I'll say this about Dan Campbell, man. No guts, no glory. The guy's got both today. Reynolds went in from 1 yard out, gave Detroit a 17-10 lead, but Tampa still wasn't done. 7-play, 75-yard drive for Baker, and it capped off when Baker hit Rachaad White with a 12-yard touchdown pass, and you had a 17-17 game going to the fourth. But the fourth quarter was almost all Detroit as Jahmyr Gibbs went in from a 31-yard touchdown run to make it 24-17 Lions. And then Jared Goff found Amon-Ra St. Brown for a 9-yard pitch and catch to cap another 10-play drive, and Detroit went up 31-17. And then you're thinking, well, maybe this is going to be a blowout. But, man, Baker sure looked good in this game. He came back with a touchdown to Evans to make it 31-23. For whatever reason, they went for the 2-point conversion, and it failed. And then Detroit could not move the ball and ice the game with their offense, so they had to punt it back to Tampa Bay for one last chance to drive the length of the field. But it was the former Purdue linebacker, Derek Barnes, who stepped in front of a Baker Mayfield pass to clinch the victory with the interception. Beautiful slot blitz by one of the great slot corners in the game today, Brian Branch, the former Alabama Crimson Tide defensive back. Fantastic. And he had a slot blitz, and that put pressure on Baker. And the Niners now know their NFC Championship opponent Sunday at Levi's, 49ers and Lions. the home return of Jared Goff. Can the 49ers stop Jahmyr Gibbs, who averaged 8.2 yards per carry today? He's a fantastic rookie running back out of Alabama. David Montgomery is his counterpart. Detroit can run the ball. They ran for 114 yards today and 2 touchdowns, 4.4 a carry. Though I will say this, the Niners should be able to run the ball on Detroit. Tampa ran for 5.9 a carry. And, if you look at Rachaad White, he went for over 6 yards a carry. So Rachaad White is not one of the NFL's better running backs. If he can go for 6.1 a carry, McCaffrey can go for the same. Big day, though, for Mike Evans. 8 catches, 147, and a touchdown. He goes into free agency with a bunch of teams going to be interested in Evans. Oh, my God, what a game he had. 12 targets, 8 catches for 147. Cade Otton got in the end zone. Rachaad White scored a receiving touchdown. It was a great day for Baker. 349 yards, 3 touchdowns, but the 2 picks, including the one at the end to end it. Detroit did get 4 sacks on Baker. Big night for Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's a great receiver. 8 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. They targeted him 14 times, and he made 8 catches. And then Sam Laporta is a great young tight end. 11 targets, 9 catches, 65 yards. This guy looked like he had a screwed up knee just a couple weeks ago, and he's played great football despite the injury. Brian Branch, the rookie DB, had a sack, had 2 tackles for a loss, had a big hit on the quarterback. He led the Lions with 9 tackles, so he was fantastic. Aiden Hutchinson now has 8 sacks in the last 4 games. He had a sack in this game and 2 hits on the quarterback. Big day for him for sure. Derek Barnes, of course, with the game clinching interception. 4 tackles for Barnes, and then C.J. Gardner-Johnson also with the interception. His first, he only made 1 tackle, but he had that big interception for the Lions. So the Bucs get 13 tackles out of Levante David and 12 from K.J. Britt, but they come up short on the road against a Lions team that is feeling like it's their year. Badgley had 1 field goal attempt for Detroit. He made it. McLaughlin had 2 field goal attempts for Tampa. He made 1. He missed 1. And that obviously contributed to the loss as well. But how about the Detroit Lions? Dan Campbell. A lot of people didn't believe that Dan Campbell, he was, could be a good head coach. A lot of people thought he was gimmicky. He talks a big game, but is this guy going to be just a rah-rah guy? Well, he's got Aaron Glenn as his defensive coordinator, Ben Johnson as his offensive coordinator, 2 really good coaches. They got a fantastic young general manager. They took a chance on Jared Goff. Jared Goff led the Rams to a Super Bowl, and they kicked him out the door for Stafford. And I'm sure that hurt. Now he's in his prime. He's 29. The former kid from Marin County is going to have a chance to knock off the 49ers and get back to the Super Bowl. The 49ers, of course, the team I'm sure that he rooted for as a kid. So it's going to be a big Sunday next week for Jared Goff. For the 49ers, at least they get a quarterback that really doesn't move all that well. Jared Goff had 43 passes today. He was sacked twice. He operates behind one of the best lines in football. Frank Ragnow's awesome. Penei Sewell, equally awesome. Taylor Decker, only slightly less. They've got a terrific offensive line. So Detroit's got a great O-line. They got Goff playing great ball in his prime. They got 2 really good running backs. They may have a true number 1 tight end and a true number 1 wideout in Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta. They've done an incredible job getting difference-making weapons to surround Jared Goff with, and they're going to the NFC Championship game. 12-5 for the Lions on the year, 6-2 in their place, and defensively they're not quite there yet. If they, there's definitely you can make it. This is a team that had Emmanuel Mosley early in the year, and he was out for the year. They miss his contribution on the corner. Their corners can be beaten. There's no question about it. The Lions' corners are not premier, but C.J. Gardner-Johnson is a problem in their secondary. He's a hitter. He's an intimidator. He's good against the run. He intimidates in the pass game. He knows he's a ball hawk. He can sack the quarterback. I mean, C.J. Gardner-Johnson is one of the great defensive players in the NFL. He was out for a big portion of this year, but he's back and he is producing. And so that is scary. Kirby Joseph is a headhunter safety who had a terrible hit on Higbee. He's a very physical guy trying to deliver knockout blows. And they've got some good young defenders. Derek Barnes, Jack Campbell, Aiden Hutchinson's a blue chipper. He's their equivalent of Nick Bosa. Brian Branch is now an impact player in the secondary. He's a rookie. Melifonwu had 9 tackles and 1.5 sacks and a couple hits on the quarterback as well. So Detroit in this game had 4 sacks of Baker. They had 8 hits on the quarterback. So they're playing hard-nosed ball. They're a good young team with a ton of confidence. They think it's their year, and they're coming to Levi's next week against the 49ers. And the Niners are going to need Debo to be healthy, and we'll see what his situation is going to be. And the 49ers need to really play an outstanding game if they're going to advance to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, because the Lions are on a roll. I mean, if you look at the way the Lions are playing right now, they're absolutely on a roll. They get a win over the Rams, they get a win over the Bucks. And not to mention, they started off the year by beating Kansas City in Kansas City. They've got that win on their resume. That's impressive. They beat Green Bay in Green Bay by 14. The 49ers know how good Green Bay is. Now, that was Green Bay earlier in the year, but you get the picture. The Lions are playing good football. Their only loss really since, first week of December. They lost at Chicago, 28-13 to the Bears. That was a little bit of a surprise. Goff threw for only 161 yards in that game, and that was week 14. They lost to Green Bay, and then 2 weeks later, they lost to the Bears. And they beat Denver, beat Minnesota. They lost at Dallas 20-19, as we all know. That was a game that all of us watched. And then Minnesota in week 18, they beat them by 10. So the Lions are playing terrific football. I mean, they really are. They're a good young team. They've got a coach that he's going for it. He's going for it on fourth downs a lot. I mean, he puts the ball in the hands of Goff. They feel like they've got a lot of different ways they can beat you on fourth down, either with the speed of Gibbs, the power of Montgomery, the precision of Goff to Amon-Ra. Sam Laporta is a really good young tight end. So George Kittle, Iowa tight end, against Sam Laporta, Iowa tight end. This is going to be a hell of a matchup. So 49ers, against the Lions. And, man, the Lions have never been to the Super Bowl, and they're going to be kind of an emotional favorite, but nobody cares about that. And it should have no impact on the game. If Brock Purdy can play well, the one thing about this Lions team is they are physical. They are super physical. So get ready for a physical knockdown, drag out kind of a game. But as you saw today, you can run on their D, and their corners are pretty ordinary. You can throw the ball on their D. They haven't arrived yet. They're probably a year before their time. But Branch's rookie season has given them another superstar player to add to their mix, and they're dangerous. Any way you slice it, they are dangerous. And if you really look at the Lions and you say, well, what is the key to the Lions? It's really the general manager has hit not just with guys who can play or be in a rotation or start and be ordinary. He's hitting on stars. And that's a big part of why they're where they're at. It's not just that they're drafting players, they're drafting star players. So, they're getting some of the best young players in the sport out of the draft. And that's really what's going on there. I mean, that's, you look at why Brad Holmes is their general manager. He's a young GM. He's only been there, for a short amount of time, and he's just a really good general manager. And if you look at that depth chart for the Lions, they've had some high picks, but they've also had the vision. They signed David Montgomery as a free agent. But Jahmyr Gibbs, that was a great pick. I mean, I love that pick. And a lot of people felt like they reached for him. They took him with the 12th pick of the first round, but they loved him. And he was one of the great playmakers in this draft, without a doubt. If you watch college football, you knew all about Jahmyr Gibbs. So they hit on Jahmyr Gibbs. He's a star. I mean, they hit on Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was a 4th-round pick in 2021. He's a star. I mean, the guy had 119 receptions this year. And it's almost impossible to stop Goff from connecting with Amon-Ra. I mean, Goff can throw lasers, and Amon-Ra can run to spots, and they know each other well enough because of the reps they've had, where he throws these anticipatory throws where only Amon-Ra and him are on the same spot, same path, and nobody knows, and they put it in such tight windows. I mean, it's very, very difficult to defend Goff to Amon-Ra in short yardage situations if he can just throw a short stop route. Amon-Ra runs it incredibly well. And then Laporta is probably a better receiver than George Kittle. He had 9 catches for 65 yards. He's a star. He's one of the best young tight ends that's come along in the NFL in the last decade. So we even mentioned Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams was another 1st-round pick, 12th overall. He doesn't make he hasn't made a big contribution yet, but I mean, you're talking about one of the fastest, most explosive, receivers in the sport right now. So, I mean, he's got big speed. And then Brian Branch, another Alabama guy. I mean, that was another great 2nd-round pick. I mean, this guy's a star safety, and they're using him as a corner. So, I mean, he's a star. And Aiden Hutchinson, of course, was there, Bosa. So he was the 2nd pick overall in the 2022 draft. I mean, this is what happens. You get all these high picks, and they've hit on them. They've absolutely hit on their high picks. C.J. Gardner-Johnson came over in free agency from the Eagles. Let's be honest. What do the Eagles need this year that they don't have? C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of other issues in Philly, but one of the biggest reasons that Philly's not Philly and Detroit is suddenly Detroit is the transition of C.J. Gardner-Johnson from Philly to Detroit. That's had a lot to do with it. And then Derek Barnes, who had the game-winning interception, really solid player, 4th-round pick in 2021 out of Purdue. He was a productive linebacker at Purdue. He's a productive linebacker in the pros with the Lions. So no shocker there. Badgley's done a decent job. They're a tough out. I mean, they have stars, absolute stars. Branch, Hutchinson for sure are stars. C.J. Gardner-Johnson for sure is a star. So they got 3 big-time stars on defense. And on offense, Amon-Ra, Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, all stars. Penei Sewell, all absolutely top of his game. Frank Ragnow. So, I mean, you could argue that Penei Sewell is the best right tackle in the game. Ragnow is the best, you could argue, is the best center in the game. Amon-Ra is as good as any wide receiver in the game. Laporta is probably as good as any tight end in the game. Their combo of Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are a terrific combo. And Brian Branch is the best slot in the game. Hutchinson's got 8 sacks in the last 4 games. He's a terrific young defensive end. C.J. Gardner-Johnson has done nothing but make big plays since he got back and even before he went out. So Niners got to be on their game. That's really it. Purdy's going to have to play better. Shanahan's going to have to coach better. The 49ers are going to have to run, commit to the run. Debo's going to have to be healthy. Ayuk's going to have to touch the ball more than 3 damn times. All right. Say that right up front. The D-line's not going to be able to be AWOL. The coverage on the back end is going to have to be tight. Charvarius Ward for the Niners is going to have to probably really do an incredible job on Amon-Ra, or it's going to have to be Lenore. Maybe you put Lenore on him, but Amon-Ra is maybe the toughest cover in the game right now. So they're going to have to get pressure on Goff. The one thing is Goff's not mobile. Goff's not durable. He doesn't escape well. But he reads coverage. He's smart. He's got a good arm, and he's got great weapons. Game on, folks. NFC Championship game. It's going to be a good one. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show. on YouTube.